Finest, a Louisville basketball podcast as part of the Field of 68 Media Network. I'm your host, your friend, Jeff Greer. So excited to have a new episode out after the Christmas and Hanukkah holidays and before the new year. I hope everybody was safe and had a great holiday season so far, and hopefully things continue down that path over these next couple of days as we start into the new year. Great episode today featuring Dino Gaudio, the Louisville assistant, one-time head coach at Wake Forest, Army, Loyola, Maryland. We talked a little bit about his upbringing in the Pittsburgh area, 45 minutes outside Pittsburgh over the Ohio line, and his background. He's got an interesting connection to Louisville football that we'll hear about here in our interview. But before we get to that, a couple of items of note. I always ask you guys, please tell your friends to subscribe to Floyd Street's Finest and any other Field of 68 podcasts that strike their fancy. Of course, there's Indiana and Kentucky podcasts. There's ACC teams that we also have great podcasts for, plus the national guys, Jeff Goodman, Rob Doster, Tim Miles, Robbie Hummel, Deshaun Butler, all talking college hoop every week, every day. So make sure you help out the Field of 68 Media Network. Go subscribe to all of those podcasts. But the biggest thing that helps us, make sure you rate and review us. I know I ask you this every week. It's probably the source of much fast forwarding, but please do make sure you smash the rating. If you have time, tell people you like me. And leave a review as well. It's the only way other Louisville fans and people who want to follow Louisville basketball for any reason can find this podcast. Also, something special that I put up this week that's video only. I spent a good amount of time actually going through David Johnson's 30 assists and 29 turnovers through 7 games this season and looked at the film of it to try to figure out maybe what is triggering some of the high turnover games, and also to show where his vision and his pass delivery arsenal really make him such a threatening offensive player, a great creator, and thought up a few ways that maybe he could cut down on some of those turnovers. All of that is over on our YouTube channel, Field of 68 on YouTube. So make sure you go over there and subscribe to us there as well. Before we get started, I want to just let you know that while the holiday season may be winding down for sports, for the sports calendar, it's in full swing this week. That's for sure. From college to professional sports, there is no shortage of action, and there is no better place to get it in on all of this action than with DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. If you haven't tried out DraftKings Sportsbook, what are you waiting for? To celebrate this year's college football playoffs, DraftKings is giving all new users the chance to bet on any semifinal team, all 4 of them, to win the championship at 100-1 odds. That's right. All you have to do is bet $1 on any semifinal team to win the championship. And if your team wins, you cash $100. While we are all excited for football, let's not forget, of course, the 2020-2021 basketball season just kicked off. So head to the app now to check out all of the DraftKings daily odds boosts. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable, making it easy for you to deposit and withdraw your money at your convenience. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code FIELD68, all one word, using the numerals 68, FIELD68, when you sign up to get 100-1 odds on any semifinal team to win it all. That's code FIELD68 for new players to get a shot at $100 on any semifinal team this week for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. You must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. If you've got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT. without further ado, here's my conversation with Dino Gaudio. All right, we are now joined by the legend, Dino Gaudio. Dino, what's going on, man? How are you?
Doing well, Jeff. Hanging in there and trying to get through all the COVID stuff and keep the kids mentally in a good place. And it's been difficult. It's been a challenge, but Coach Mack's done a great job with these guys and keeping them focused. And around the holiday season, we didn't let the NCAA says you have to have 3 days off for Christmas around that Christmas holiday. And we gave the guys 3 days off, but we didn't permit them to go home because we were afraid if they went home, came back, and then we'd have another outbreak. So challenging, but trying to steer through it all.
Absolutely. What's the environment been like the last couple of days? I imagine things are pretty buoyant over on Floyd Street.
Yeah, well, you know what happened? Like a lot of parents came in for the Kentucky game, stayed a day or two with their sons, and but we hadn't been in the office because we're like I said, the NCAA mandates a 3-day off period around Christmas, and even if the kids don't go home, you can't work with them in the gym or anything. So it's sort of been a little break, a little respite from the rigors of the season, which I think we'll practice this afternoon and hopefully get right back on track with the game with Boston College on January 2nd.
So before we get into some of your thoughts, and I know you work closely with the guards, I want to talk to you a lot about that today. I have to ask, I know we bonded about this back when you first knew you were coming to Louisville. You're from the Ohio, Pennsylvania, Allegheny Valley part of the country. Are you a Browns guy or are you a Steelers guy? Because one is very different than the other going into this weekend.
This is the weirdest thing ever. Like growing up in Eastern Ohio, just 45 minutes from Pittsburgh. And, my dad worked at Wheeling Pittsburgh Steel Corporation for 44 years. But for whatever reason, the priest at our church, Father Conley, his nephew was Johnny Unitas. So as I'm growing up, time Johnny Unitas came to Mass on Sunday in Little Yorkville, Ohio. And, at 5 or 6 years old, all of a sudden, don't ask me how geographically, but I was a Colts fan,
wow,
Baltimore,
okay,
because of that slight connection there. But boy, you notice the Steelers and the Pirates and those people back in that area. That is a unified group right there, and it's tough to break that group up.
Yeah, pretty intense. I learned that the hard way being in school there, being a New England kid in school in Pittsburgh. It was quite the shocking experience. It was like the height of the Patriots when they had their undefeated season when I was in college. The Steelers went 15-1 one year, man. It was a great time to be in college. They both won Super Bowls. So I'm very, very, very familiar with the craziness in Pittsburgh for sure.
Now that area back there, I don't care where you go. People got their Steelers hats and Steelers sweatshirts, and it's unbelievable. And you notice, Jeff, like when they travel, the Steelers might have more fans today. This year is obviously atypical, but they might have more fans in the home team than some of those NFL stadiums.
That's true. That's so true. Well, we'll see how the playoffs shake out. It should be an exciting playoff run here. But so I got to ask you a few questions about your backcourt. I know some of my favorite stories over the past couple of years from the Kristen Cunningham recruitment with the silverware and the cups on the table, teaching them pick and roll stuff that you guys like to do, to the work you've done with Ryan McMahon and those guys over the years. You've got a really special backcourt so far this season. It's been a great start for them. Obviously, some hiccups along the way, but what's been your impression of working with Carlee and now in the second year with David Johnson?
I think the best thing is with those two is they're great listeners and they're like sponges. They really absorb things and spend a lot of time watching film. And we're a really ball screen centric team. We spend a lot of time on ball screen action, and those are the two primary facilitators and users of our ball screen actions. And those guys understand how to play ball screens, and there'll be timeouts and they'll come to the bench and I see it, but I'll say to them, how are they guarding our ball screens? Okay. A coach, they're going under or they're owning or they're jumping. And I'll say, okay, what's our solution now? Like, I think it's real important that they process and they think the game. That way, when they're out there, they're not looking to the bench for answers. They know what the answers are. So this is the problem. This is how we're being guarded. And the solution is, and they'll come up with it. But you know what, Jeff, I think the thing that deserves a tremendous amount of credit is how David and Carlee are working together. Both point guards, of course, and both on the floor, 35, 34 minutes a game together. And they've really become a cohesive duo in that sense. There hasn't been any egos or I want the ball or I need the ball, because regardless of who's bringing the ball up the floor, once we're in the half court, those guys are similar. They're both, like I said, excuse the redundancy, using ball screens and understanding how they need to use those ball screens. And, I would tell them all the time, and I, showed them clips of Chris Paul, and I don't know if there's a better ball screen point guard in the country than CP. And the thing that would come out of it, I would tell them is, fellas, listen, do what the game tells you to do. If you come off the ball screen and you're supposed to hit the roll 3 times, then hit the roll 3 times. If you're supposed to throw the drift pass to the opposite corner and that's where the ball belongs, do it. Don't come off of there and go, hey, I made 3 passes. Now it's my turn. It might not be your turn.
Yeah.
Do what the game tells you to do. Those guys are learning that. They're doing that. And that's why we're having success in the half court, because of Carlee and Dave and their understanding of our offense.
I had Carlee on, I think it was before the season had started, actually. And I thought it was really interesting. It's such a graduate transfer, older guy type thing to say, but he basically said, look, we've had a chance to work out quite a bit. Obviously things have been a little different this year, but he's like, every time I play alongside David Johnson, or if I'm sitting on the sideline and he's working out or whatever, I will watch his movements and kind of see how he moves and where he likes to be, and try to continue to tweak my game to work with him. So it sounds like you guys knew that this was going to be one of the key things, was figuring out these 2 guys and how to use them together, because they are on the floor for so much time.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it had to be a buy-in from both of those guys. And at one point, like as we started the preseason, we were inbounding to Carlee. Dave, who usually has the ball in his hands, like after a made field goal, we would then inbound to Carlee. And David Johnson's running the right sideline, which is where our 2 guard runs. And, we were having success with that. And Carlee came and said, hey, do you think we should be inbounding to Dave? And I'm more of a scorer, and I could run the wing. When we said, no, we're going to do what we're doing here. We appreciate the input. But I think that just goes and speaks volumes of how he's willing to subjugate himself and his game for his backcourt mate. You know what I mean? I think what he was trying to do right there was give Dave a little bit of sugar, if you will, let him run that. But they've been terrific together, and they're very different, Jeff. Carlee has that quickness and a little shake to his game. Dave is more of a downhill power point guard that could finish through contact at the rim. And I think that difference in their 2 games really bodes well for us, and it has.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, David Johnson, I like to use the phrase, keeps guys on his hip. He's got such good size that he can just keep people really, he can back people down from the 3-point line. I mean, he can do a lot of different things. I want to talk about him in particular, because I know you've had more time this past 2 years to work with him. He was a good shooter in high school. So he came in, I'm sure you guys were thinking, look, his mechanics are good. Maybe the shot's a little flat. We can work on that. But you thought that there would be a good opportunity to grow in that spot. Obviously, last year, teams started to kind of counter him and come under the screens and say, basically, go ahead and beat us with your jump shot. But he's 10 for 25 this year so far from 3, 40%. He's making jump shots a lot more. He's shooting free throws a lot better. Is it just he's just shooting better this year? He's just maybe more comfortable, or why do you think he's improved in those areas?
Well, you know this, like when those kids make that jump from high school to college, especially from high school, and I don't care how ballyhooed of a recruit you are, like that's a big jump going from high school to the ACC. And, he just had to learn to spend more time in the gym, which he did this summer. He spends a lot of time in there shooting. He spends a lot of time watching film. So I think he's grown into the position in that sense. His shot wasn't broken by any means. His mechanics were good. Like you alluded to, he had to get a little more arc on his ball. He shot a little bit of a flat ball. And he's done that. He's become a better shooter because of time he spent in the gym, because of working on his mechanics. We're real big footwork coaches where it's left, right for a right-hander into your shot. And he's mastered that. And like you said, he's understanding the game a little better. Like last year when guys would go under ball screens, at times he would settle for shooting from behind the screen, which is not necessarily what you have to do all the time. I was blessed to coach some really good point guards and recruit some really good point guards. And, Chris Paul and Jeff T. Well, Ish Smith plays for the Wizards, and Ish was a really poor shooter in college. Mm-hmm. And everybody went under ball screens. So the adjustments we made with Ish were, well, let's set the ball screen lower. Are they going to go under it at 15 or 16 feet now? You don't have to shoot a three. Mm-hmm. You can shoot a 17 or 18-foot jump shot. And the other thing you can do is when that defender goes under the screen, because you have good communication with your big guy, he could flip that screen and screen him a second time. Mm-hmm. And now Dave could get downhill. So he spent more time in the gym. He's working with his footwork like he needs to, and he's understanding the game a little better. That's why he's become a better shooter. And if he keeps improving in that area, unfortunately, we're not going to see him long at Louisville because he's going to be playing at that next level. But loves the game, spends time in the gym, and that's why he's improved.
Yeah, so one of my all-time favorite interviews was with Ja Morant's dad. And I'm sure you have over the years had so many great conversations with parents and high school coaches or grassroots coaches, wherever it is, with someone who knows a player from their most basic form on. And I remember asking, like, how is your son gotten so good at passing and reading the floor and having good vision? And he said, we used to play like little football games in the living room, and he could figure out how to throw into space where someone was going to be. But the biggest thing was he played a lot of NBA 2K. And he would actually run the offensive sets against his cousins and uncles and throw lead passes and all this stuff. And so I always think about that when I think about David Johnson, because it feels like he already had that innate sense of not only the vision, but the passing delivery arsenal, like the way to throw passes and when to pick them out. It just seems like maybe the last step to cut down on some of the turnovers is accepting good versus great. Am I crazy with that? Like, it seems like he dribbles to spots where he thinks the play will be perfect versus pulling up a step sooner and making the decision a split second sooner.
And no question, Dave has an innate ability that he came to us with of seeing the floor. And because of his size at 6'5", he could see over smaller defenders and probe to see what the right pass is. The thing I tell Dave, and we articulate this to the team a lot as well, is it's not making the great play which enables you to win. It's eliminating most of the time the bad ones. Mm-hmm. And Dave at times tries to make the home run pass, and if it's not there, then just don't throw it. Because coming out of Wisconsin and Pittsburgh, he had 13 of our 35 turnovers. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of that at the Wisconsin game, he tried to do too much, which is, he tried to put the team on his shoulders without Carlee there and without having Jalen Withers in the second half really able to play with us. But beside that, the big thing is for David, he sees the floor, he makes the right reads. If you're not sure, don't worry about hitting the home run. Just eliminate bad plays. That's how you win. He did a better job of it against Kentucky on the past Saturday. So, but he's growing. We got to remember, he's still young. He's still young, and despite all the accolades and where somebody has him in the future NBA draft, he's still learning the game, and he's a willing learner. And as long as he keeps doing that, he'll be fine.
Yeah, he's off to a great start this year for sure, and a lot of attention being paid to young David Johnson and Carlee Jones. So I want to ask you this: so you've had 7 games now. You've had a chance to get through a fair amount of what I would consider more in-season workouts versus the off-season workouts. Has anything surprised you about this team or any particular player so far from what you guys have experienced?
And I think the fans see this. Like we knew he was good coming in, Carlee, but he's really good. I mean, he's really a good player. Can score at the rim, can shoot the three. We're fortunate to have him, and it's been a good thing for us from CC to Fresh to Carlee picking up that 5th-year senior to come in. And he's as good a point guard as there is out there. And the only thing that's sort of somewhat, and it doesn't really hold him back, is his size. You know what I mean? I was standing next to him and I said, Carlee, come on, man. 6'1", 6'2". I got 5'10" with high heels on, but I don't think it. Come on, coach. He goes, I'm 6'1", but his size may be the only detriment to his game. And, he's been playing with that size, obviously, a little guy forever, but he is a pleasant surprise. And the other thing is, Jeff, some guys, when they're out there, give other guys confidence. He does that because he has an air about him. He has a cachet about him that the other guys feed off of a little bit. We're really disappointed, when we went to Wisconsin. Probably, to be honest with you, probably shouldn't even have gone up to Madison. But, he wasn't there. We shouldn't get beat that bad. If we're playing the managers, we should have, we would want us to fight a little bit more. But, you go up there without Carlee, who I said gives other guys confidence. Fred Hina comes to us to start the second half and says, hey, listen, I'm not comfortable with right now. He's breathing real heavy. He had only practiced for a half hour before going up there. And then without Malik, we have 12 scholarship guys. Without Malik, without Charles Minlin, at the time without Josh Nickelberry, we're down to 9 scholarship guys. Then without Carlee and without Jalen in the second half, we have 7 scholarship players. And, in hindsight, I wish we would have maybe reconsidered that. But you know what? It's water over the dam right now. But he's the kind of guy that if he was there, even if he wouldn't have scored a point for us on the floor, like I said, he gives those guys a little bit more courage. And that's another dimension to his game that people don't realize, but he's a terrific talent, a terrific leader, and a really good point guard. And those two guys together in the backcourt, I think, gives us perhaps the best backcourt in the ACC. Yeah,
definitely in that conversation. So that is something that, and I know before we hit record on this, we were talking about this. COVID-19 has made things just so challenging. I know you've been in that head coach's seat a bunch. It sounds like it has. I mean, it's clearly come up with you guys or with the stuff you're having to deal with and keeping a close monitor on players. How much does that, I guess, I don't want to say impact, because obviously it impacts it, but how much do you think it has posed even more challenge than a normal ankle sprain or a knee injury or whatever else that you would typically have to deal with players?
Yeah, not just a challenge for us, challenge for everybody in the country. And at one point, I mentioned to the kids, I had the scout and I was in front of them and I said, hey, listen, you guys have been through a lot, with COVID. And I think we've had 9 guys have COVID, 9 guys, 2 GA. Now this is dating back to the summer, 2 GAs, 2 managers, a video guy.
Wow.
Had it. And, but you know what, fellas? Everybody in the country is going through this. Like the team that handles it best mentally is the team that's going to persevere. You know, and I shared the story with them, like, some of you guys have been waiting to play. Some of you sophomores that sat last year behind Jordan and Ryan and Dwayne and Stephen Enoch, like, now's your chance. You know, and I had said at the time, it was just a couple weeks ago, but I said a couple weeks ago, Clemson's number 1 in the country, and they go to play number 4 Notre Dame, and they don't have, you know, perhaps the Heisman Trophy leader at the time, obviously the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, and their quarterback Trevor Lawrence, and some freshman that's not supposed to take any reps this year. He's going to run the quarterback position when the score's Clemson 54, you know, ABC University 7, and he goes in. And I butchered his name, I think, Uyo Jalele, and throws for 439 yards. Like, that's your opportunity. Let's take advantage when that presents itself. And it's presented itself now because we have guys out. How are you going to step up and handle that situation? But, gosh, if I think and I'll be off a number, but 400 games canceled and countless football games and bowl games. But the team, and Chris Mack's done a great job of this, kept them on track and kept them focused. And through the adversity that stays on track will be the team that perseveres through all of this.
Have you had any moments where you've kind of been like, maybe we shouldn't be playing this year? Like, you saw the Coach K comments that made their rounds. Has that ever crossed your mind at any point?
For me personally, I agree with Coach K, what he said, and what Jeff Capel said. I wish we'd have just pushed it off and let the kids go back for Christmas, started perhaps bringing back like we are now on the 28th or 29th of December, you know, quarantine for a little while, and then resume league games around January 15th. And who cares if the NCAA tournament starts in April or starts in May? By then, the vaccine would be more prevalent. I'm of that camp. You know, and I believe in that. I believe, you know, it was scary. I said it before it happened. God forbid this year if there's a Hank Gathers incident in college basketball. And I'm not saying that COVID was the reason for it. Trust me, I don't have that information. But it was scary what we saw happen at Florida, Florida State with the young man down there. So I'm in that camp, and I just think if it would be pushed back, nothing's lost. We're still playing all the games. We're just, you know, we're still getting all the TV revenue. And Jeff, let me say this: the guys that said that Mike Krzyzewski said that after a loss they're so far off. It's not even funny. Here's a guy that's won 5 national championships, 5 gold medals when you count the 2 in the World University Games, the winningest coach in the history of our game. And Coach Mack would say to you if he was on this call, like in October and November, when they would have head coaches calls in the ACC, Mike was an advocate of pushing things off a little bit. But those guys saying that, hey, Coach K said that because he got beat, you got to be kidding me. Like, there's nobody that cares more about our game and more about the game of college basketball than Coach K.
Well, hopefully we can land this thing and keep everybody safe and avoid any other Florida situations. That was really, really scary. And I'm sure as a coach who's around kids all the time, I mean, that probably rattled you guys even more than the rest of us who are already kind of shaken by that.
Yeah, it really has. And if I could interject, like when coming off of his positive test, there's a protocol to come back. It's like, okay, 14 days and then one day, and I don't have it, memorized. Like one day you're on the bike for 15 minutes. One day you're on a treadmill. One day you're on the Versa climber. So on Wednesday, Fred Hina said to me, he could work out for 30 minutes. So Chris said, why don't you take him down there and do a 30-minute workout? And Jeff, all we did was we shot elbow, put 2 minutes on the clock. He shot for 2. Then we went elbow corner, right side, elbow corner, left side. And then we did ball screen actions. And I could tell he was winded after like 10 minutes. And I said, shoot 2 free throws.
Mm-hmm.
And he's at the free throw line. He got his hands on his knees. And Fred Heenan was standing right there. And I looked at Fred from behind, couldn't see me. And I go, you make sure he's okay. Because I'm scared. Like maybe 5 years ago, I would have said, let's go, son. Let's move. Let's pick it up. Well, I'm scared to push him right now through that. So those are the things that are a delicate balance for coaches too. And I've heard a lot of coaches say that when kids come back, and came back earlier with it one time, and same thing. I was doing a workout and he walked off the floor. Most of the time I might yell, yo, get your tail over here. Let's go. But it's a little bit of a scary time where you really, really, really defer to the medical people as to how far and how hard you could push some of these kids.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's scary that those guys are big time athletes. I mean, these are Division I athletes and
high level.
I've had it. I had it in December. It was luckily asymptomatic, but even then trying to work out was weird. So I totally get it. Well, last thing then, before I let you go, you've got ACC play now starting. I'm sure for you, it's like a kid in the candy store, all other things not considered. I know you love ACC play. How are you feeling about the league? It seems like it's kind of wide open right now.
I think it really is. It's really wide open, and I think we got as good a shot as anybody. And we'll see how it progresses. This time with COVID and the injury that we have, it's enabled other guys to get quality minutes. And boy, if we could ever get, and trust me, we're not pushing him at all. If we could ever get Malik back and Charles Midland playing again, there's Charles Midland that averaged 14 points a game the last 2 years when they played Gonzaga last year. I think one game he had 19, one game he had 20, an experienced guy. I've been doing this a long time. When you count my years at ESPN, Jeff, this is my 40th year around basketball. Malik Williams is as good and elite as a defender as I've ever been associated with. And he's impactful on that side of the floor and has a great voice in practice and behind your defense. And if we're fortunate to get those guys back, we got as good a chance as anybody to be in the upper tier of the ACC.
Absolutely. All right, man. Well, thank you so much. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. I know we've had many great conversations over the years, and I really appreciate you taking a few minutes.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, Dino.